Welcome back to today's BioStock Live, and as you've noticed, we are now switching into English because our last presentation is coming from a Danish company called FluoGuide, who works with improving cancer treatment. Here to tell us more about their work is CEO Morten Albrechtsen. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the presentation of FluoGuide. What I wanted to do today is giving a presentation of our company, but also I would like to present our clinical trial that is just to start anytime. So we'll give you a bit more information about that study. But what we do at FluoGuide is that we maximize surgical outcome by intelligent targeting. And we've started out with oncology surgery. And if we look at it, there's about 15 million patients every year that have cancer. And about 80% of them will require surgery during the course of the disease. The problem today is that 50%, half of them approximately, will have local recur of the cancer after the surgery. And that's because it's very difficult to see it, to distinguish the normal tissue for the cancer tissue. What we have done as a solution is that we light up cancer with a fluorophore that lights up the cancer, binds to it and light it up and help the surgeon to do a precise surgery and remove all the cancer with less risk of side effects. We have started out with glioblastoma. That's a very severe brain cancer, and we will have the first result anytime in this year for the study. And we have a very short path to the market for our first product, FD1, but it can be used in all kind of surgery, oncology surgery, and that is more than 3 million surgery procedure per year, which we have a potential benefit in. We are listed today, publicly listed on Spotlight. So our product is injected into the patient in the veins just prior to surgery during anesthesia. It circulates in the body and it binds to the cancer. And during the surgery, the surgeon can light up the cancer so they can see it. They can remove everything precisely, and that actually have a benefit for all stakeholders involved. It is the patient, of course, the hospitals, and also the surgeon, because they're quite pleased to be able to do a proper surgery or complete surgery. But more importantly, also the equipment manufacturers have quite a benefit from this technique. We increase the functionality of the equipment and also the benefit they can add. And we see quite a huge interest from the different equipment manufacturers in participating in our trials. So this is an example of one of our preclinical studies. This study is done in animals. We took a human cancer, pancreatic cancer, and it's autotopic xenograft model, meaning that we took this human cancer and implanted it into the animal in the point of in the organs where it actually comes from. In this case, it's pancreatic cancer. We had a human surgeon that did the surgical procedure, and we used human equipment. In this case, it was, among other things, it was a Da Vinci robot. So the surgeon was asked to do the procedure under white light, and when he was completed, we switched on the fluorescent light to see if there were more cancer present in the animal. And in the first 4 animals, he could remove more cancer and said he was finished. And then when we switched on the light, the 4 more of the animals actually had additional cancer to be removed. And had it been patient, they would have been sent home with a message that they've been cured. But in fact, they would have a relapse or recur of the cancer, and they would have a risk of having more severe follow-up complications, like, for instance, a die. We use the UPAR as a target, and there's a quite interesting target. It's an enzyme that the cancer used to invade into normal tissue, break it down, and spread into it. And that means that all cancers that spreads actually express the UPAR or the forefront, and that's exactly where we want to see it, because that's what is difficult for the surgeon to see it. It's expressed across many different cancers, including the very prevalent cancers such as breast cancer, colorectal cancer, and lung cancer. And also it's expressed on a range of less frequent cancers, like, for instance, the glioblastoma. Our first indication is glioblastoma for 2 reasons. One reason is that there's a big unmet need. Today, 1 out of 20 patients will survive 5 years. So it's a very low and one of the lowest rate of survival in oncology. And there's been not a big improvement over the last decades, and that's because the glioblastoma is growing profoundly into the tissue, and it can be very hard for the surgeon to completely remove. So seeing it deeply into the tissue would be a very important point for being able to to remove the cancer. In almost 100% of the cases will recur locally after surgery, and approximately 10% of the patients are children. There's another reason for us choosing glioblastoma, and that is because it's have a potential for being an orphan drug designation and giving us a short path to the market. It's generally the case for most of our indication, but particularly the case for glioblastoma, that we need 2 studies for it to be approved. And the first study, that's the one we're doing now, will be one focusing in on safety and demonstrate proof of concept that it actually works. The second study will be a pivotal study, and that's a study that is designed to obtain approval with a regulatory agency such as FDA or EMEA in Europe. Each patient will have to be treated the same way as we saw in the animal study before. They come in, they're treated under white light, the fluorescent light is switched on, and then the tissue is sent to the pathologist for checking if it actually was cancer or not. And each patient will be included in the study in 2 to 4 weeks, meaning that there will be quite a short study. Also, the endpoints are very precise and well defined. There will not be a placebo group because the placebo lies in the light. And then last but not least, the competition of patients will be very low because we can include all patients coming in for surgery. We don't have to, we have no competition for other treatment that is being tested. We estimate in the second study that it will be approximately 150 patients, and it's quite important to understand that this is our best guess at the moment. The data from the first study will indicate how many patients we would need, and we have to statistically calculate it, and then we have to estimate it. But the best estimation right now that is that we need 150 patients for the pivotal study. Now, the study that we are going to start anytime, we have our initiation meeting here end of the month, and we have the inspection right after, and we will then start including patients ultimately this month, beginning next month. And it's grouped or made into 2 parts. The first part was the one we described when we did the IPO. And that's one part where we originally planned to have 20 patients. Now we include up to 36 patients in total in the study. And the first part we will address safety as the first thing. It's the first time this dose or this product is given to man, and that's why we have to focus very much on safety, of course, both for patient point of view but also for regulatory point of view. But safety will be an important one. We have to establish optimal dose for the product, and then we have to have a proof of concept that FD1 actually lights up glioblastoma. We had then added a second part to the study, and that was some more technical endpoints, and the endpoint that regulatory agency would like to see when we have to have approval for the product. So it's positive predictive value, it's sensitivity, specificity, and that really what it just means is that the likelihood of when a surgeon remove a tissue that lights up, how high is the likelihood that actually it is cancer validated by the pathologist, or how big is the likelihood that if the tissue does not light up, that it actually is not cancer. So it's really to understand the quality of the help that the FD1 can do, and that's why we will get 2 things out of this second part. One thing is that we get the magnitude of benefit, so we establish how much better is the product compared to the current standard, but also we test the kind of the design that we need for the pivotal study. One could say that this is a mini phase 3 study, and we simply just have to add more patients to do the study. So this second part was enable us to, we could do that because we got the European grant this summer, the 2.5 million euro grant that of course was very nice that we got the money, but also the recognition, but that allowed us to actually start taking some of the tasks on board that we actually was first planning to do in the next study. So with this second part, we actually moved quite along into the pivotal studies, and also it gives us a very good basis for having a quality discussion with the agencies, so that their advices will be more reliable. And this is quite nice for us to have this. But the study is designed that we have groups of 3 patients. Each group will then be dosed. They will check if it lights up, and then it will move to the next group. And that's why we say up to 24 patients, because we don't know how many groups we need, before we get the optimal light performance of the product. We may need it in the first group and it may be in the 8th group. We don't know that. And also I think it's quite important to say that the first group of patients, because it's safety that is the primary endpoint of the first part, is very low dose and we do not expect it to see that it lights up. But if it will light up on the first group or on the 8th group, well, we don't know. If we take it the dose from what we saw in animals, it would be group number 4, 5, but it could be earlier or it could be later. So we will of course report it as soon as it lights up, and then we move to the second part of the study. On the second part of the study, we include 12 patients into the study and also a Swedish site. We expected first that we only were doing it in Denmark, but now we do it both in Denmark and Sweden. So to kind of summarize it, the key outcome of it is safety. It's a proof of concept for our product FD1 in glioblastoma. It's a proof that the UParts work in oncology surgery. And then there's the value, the magnitude of benefit that we get with our product. And because that determines what kind of fair price we can charge for the product to the society, then it also gives a quite precise estimation of the value of the company and therefore the share price. So this is quite important information to get. That will first be done before middle of 21. The magnitude of benefit was still in first half of next year. The last thing is that we test the pivotal design, which is very important in the sense that we then can go straight into a phase 3 and have very good quality discussion with the agencies. Part of the study is also equipment, there's different kind of equipment for the different indications. If we start up in the left corner, we have open surgery. There they use just cameras you can put on side of the surgery, and that's for instance Medtronic or Stryker that have some cameras there. You have the endoscope where you have a camera on the tip of the scope, go into the body. That can be on abdominal stomach cancers, or it could be on lungs. Then we have the robot-assisted surgery, where you have a kind of equipment that helps the surgeon to do the procedure. That, for instance, on prostate cancer. And then last, we have the microscopes, which is very used in brain cancer, and therefore included in this study. What we have done as part of moving ahead and determine what kind of equipment to work with, we have always have the idea that we want to be equipment independent. So we should not have a special equipment that is very sophisticated. We want to have the equipment spread all over for our use, and we want to be compatible with all different kind of equipment. So we've spoken with most of the companies mentioned up there, and what we see actually is a quite nice interest in the sense that we can increase the functionality of the equipment, and therefore most of the equipment manufacturers are very keen to work with us to involve their equipment into our studies, and that's what we are doing. And the result of the study will then kind of point at what kind of structure we ideally have with agreement with this different kind of equipment manufacturers. But the good message is that it's compatible with all the different kind of equipment, and there's a big interest, and that is we're not tied up with anyone in particularly. One other thing I can mention is that been a shift in the equipment from analog cameras to digital cameras, and that opens up a new opportunity, among others, that you can see. You can use a light that is not visible for the eye, but only for the camera, and you can see deeper into the tissue. So it actually increased the usability of different kind of flow force, and among others, the one we are using. Also, the UParts are relevant for all the kind of cancer I mentioned up there, and therefore for all these different kind of equipment manufacturers. So I think that we can say that what we hope for, that we will be independent of an equipment manufacturer, and that it can be used on many different kind of equipment, seem to hold true. And now we're going to test at least 3 equipments in this first study, and then further equipments down the road. So the team behind Andreas Kjær is the founder of the company. He's typically the one that invented or co-invented our products. Then Grete takes over and do the production and toxicity testing. Dorte will then take over and do the clinical development, and I will in the end take it and sell it or prepare it for sale to the end users, the hospitals. Dorte was a new person that came on board this summer, and she's been quite instrumental in all the design we have done for the clinical trial, that we now added a second part to it, where we also can address all these pivotal questions and get a magnitude of benefit for our product. So the whole, it sounds very easy, but all the work that is behind has been a huge work, where we have looked at different kind of designs and how to do it, and that's been primarily driven by Dorte. And then Henrik came on board, or will start in December, was employed recently. He will be the CFO, and very interesting, he has both a very strong financial and business development background, and that's really a signal that commercialization and the commercial aspect of our business is becoming more important, and we allocate more work into it. So far it's been only something I've done as well. We was quite proud that we was awarded the best IPO in 2019 in our segment, and we had 2 awards. One was in price and the other one was in quality. And we of course we have had a very good first chapter of our equity story, and really what it does is that it put a lot of what can I say, we have to deliver a lot to continue that journey, and we really are working hard to be able to deliver an equally good second chapter in our equity story. But then we will do that coming period here for the next 12 months, and I think that is quite important to understand why we can deliver a next chapter of our equity story equally good as the first one. Is that we will deliver quite important news, and the headline of course is that we come from a preclinical state company until a company where we are in phase 3 stage with a compound. We will have the result of our studies, the safety, the proof of concept, it's the magnitude of benefit, we have the regulatory feedback for it, commercial manufacturing, other indication, quite importantly, we're testing at least breast and lung next year. We have preparation for the phase 3 study to start it within the 12 months, and also we have a prioritized pipeline of product that we can fully utilize the UPAR within oncology surgery. So we feel we're quite well equipped for starting the second chapter of our equity story as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Morten. That was a very interesting presentation. Mm-hmm. So quite clearly a lot, or you're focusing right now on this study, of course.
Yes.
What would you say that this study will mean for the patients?
Well, this is the primary endpoint of or aim of the study. The first part of it is safety. So you can say the first patient that will be included in the study will have no benefit of it for themselves. They will have additional attention for the staff at the hospital, which of course is also relevant. But the surgeon is not allowed to use the light to make a surgical decision after, because we don't know yet if it works. But that would be the first part of the study. Then importantly will be that we will see, or we expect that we can see cancer deeper into the tissue, and as that is a big issue for glioblastoma, that is that it grows very infiltrating, then it's very important that you can see deeply into the tissue. So we expect, and that is to be shown when we get the result, is that the surgeon is able to remove cancer deeper into the tissue more precisely. Because one of the issues for the surgeon is that they often have a dilemma. They can see some tissue that is cancer, and they know that they would like to remove it, but they cannot, because then the patient will lose, for instance, a sight or the movement in the arm or other things. So they have to make a decision on the spot. And by being able to do that more precisely, we hope that they're able both to remove the cancer and spare the functionality. And that, of course, is a huge benefit for the patient.
Of course. If we move away from the patient and look at the shareholders, what will the study mean for FluoGuide's shareholders?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's we have, as mentioned, we've chosen the glioblastoma because it's a relatively well-defined indication. There's a big unmet medical need, and it gives us a fast route to the market, or path to the market. And we have done that because that we are kind of delivering that will mean a lot for our share price. Then on the side we will show how big is the potential for our products, first one and also the one following, in other indications, and that of course will be added to it as we go on. Mm. But exactly from the shareholder, I think what is quite important is the magnitude of benefit of this product, because if we are priced on the same range as current product, we have a business case which is very interesting, and it will be great for our shareholder. But if we are much better than that, well, of course, the price we can charge will be higher, and still do it fairly to the community. and that of course will give a very increase in the value and therefore share price. So to watch out for the benefit we can create for the patient is very important for the shareholders.
If we stay a bit with the business strategy and your products, you have previously communicated that you aim to build a set of complementary products within additional cancer indications. Yes. How do you plan to do this?
Yeah, the point is that we have UPAR, as I mentioned, is relevant for a number of different indications. And as I also mentioned on the slide, there's a range of different kind of equipments. And the optimal price differ between the different indication. So for instance, glioblastoma, you have a no surgery, which is quite expensive. Almost 100% of the patient will have a recur. So the value we can create there is higher than, for instance, on breast cancer, where only 30%, still quite a lot, but 30% will have a relapse, and the procedure is not as expensive as for neurosurgeon. So the optimal price will differ between the different indications. And having one product, we will not be able to kind of utilize this in the best way. We will not be so easy for us to partner it, because it's easier to sell a product than an indication. So for us, it's quite obvious that we need 2 to 3 products, we estimate, to be able to fully release the value that there is in UPAR-guided oncology surgery.
And you did recently announce that you signed a deal with a US company called Bioscience.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about this? And do you have any other deals coming up that you can tell us about?
Well, we have, well, not that I can tell about, but we're always working very hard to, as I said, we have a high expectation for our second chapter of our equity story. So being able to feed that, we have to prepare now. So of course we work very hard all the time. But for that particular deal, what was important there was that this is our second product, and Lyco has a fluorophore that is used in different pipeline products around, so it fits into the equipment, but it has a particular feature compared to the fluorophore we use on the current product. The fluorophore we use on our current product is excreted in the liver. And that means it comes from the liver, and then it goes into the gut, and or into the gut, and then it goes through whole stomach out and then out. So you have, when you use our product, you have a little bit of green background in the most of the stomach. The fluorophore from Lyco comes out of the kidney, so it will not kind of paint the stomach, it will kind of just paint the kidney, and that means that it's much better to abdominal cancers. So the second product is clearly much better for colorectal cancer, where the first product we have is more usable for upper cancer, you can say. So that is one point where the 2 products will benefit each other. Then, as I said before, the price differentiation, there are also other kind of different technical features, but will actually mean that we have to decide which indication we put in which product.
Well, thank you so much for coming and telling us about this today.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity.